Hello and welcome to the latest episode of Sports Mole's Football Shorts. I'm Barney Corkhill and with our football editor Matt Law, and we're here to discuss game week 11 of the Premier League season. Game week 10, Matt, couldn't have gone much worse for us. We did horrendously badly. I only got one result right. You got two, which closes the gap to 2 points overall.
Yeah, it was as bad as I say. We were speaking, weren't we, a little while ago, as bad as probably if we've done, and it was a strange one in many ways. But yeah, not great. So let's hopefully get back to it this week.
I think it teaches us for going for so many draws last week, which I haven't done this week. You'll be glad to hear. The first game is on Saturday because obviously Aston Villa versus Newcastle was due for tonight, but that's been postponed because of the coronavirus outbreak at the Newcastle camp, which means the first match of the game week is Burnley versus Everton. How do you see that one going?
Yes, it's a good one to kick off Saturday, isn't it? It's a game. Again, this was one I looked at, and I have actually gone for a draw in this one. I just think Burnley against City, interesting. Sean Dyche has actually launched like an internal investigation into maybe looking at their injuries because they've got quite a few at the moment. He's not sure whether they're, might be something they're doing wrong with the sports science people or something. They had a few players out for the City game. Obviously, Nick Pope looks like he's going to come back in, which obviously makes Burnley a lot better. Everton, on the other hand, formation's been a talking point recently. Ancelotti's changed to a 3-4-3, isn't he, the last two games after the United defeat, and obviously scored 3 at Fulham, but then lost to Leeds. They did create a lot of chances against Leeds, and it was a strange game, wasn't it? It would probably, if it had gone either way, you couldn't have complained too much, but it'd be very interesting to see what he does for this game, especially at Burnley. He's going to want to get on the ball and create chances. He just needs to find that balance, I think, at the back. They've got Lucas Digne being out. He's obviously far from ideal. He's such a brilliant player and ideal for that left wing back spot if he's going to play 3-4-3 moving forward. But yeah, Everton just gone off the boil, haven't they, recently? They weren't great against United, and then probably a little bit fortunate against Fulham. Fulham missed a penalty. Burnley, obviously down there at the moment. It's fifth straight season back at this level, and I finished 10th last season. But you always feel like they're punching above their weight when you're in that. They're obviously not. Are they an established Premier League side? They probably are. It's probably fair to say they're established at the moment, but they do punch above their weight, don't they, in their squad? They've got goals in the team, but it's a little bit concerning their form. But that being said, I have actually back to drawing this one. I just think Burnley at home, Everton, bit on and off recently. So yeah, 1-1 for me.
Yeah, I think Burnley, it seems to be that if they start the season well, they do quite well in the season and finish in the top half. Or if they get off to a slow start, they tend to struggle. I think it's 2 seasons they've finished in the bottom half and sort of been battling against relegation in the end. Ended up fairly clear of relegation, but it has been after poor starts. And obviously they've got off to a poor start again this season, just 1 win so far, coming to this game 19th in the table. Everton, as you say, they have gone off the boil so much. 4 defeats in their last 5 Premier League games after such a bright start. Is really poor for them. So they'll be desperate to get back to winning ways, and I've just got a sneaky feeling they will in this one. I've probably backed Everton certainly more than I would have liked, and more than I should have in the last few weeks while they've gone on this poor run of form. But I think against Burnley, they'll probably have enough to get things done. I can see a back Calvert-Lewin to score against Leeds, but I can maybe see him get back to winning ways, get back to goal scoring ways against Burnley. So I've actually gone for a 2-1 Everton win in this one. 3 p.m. on Saturday is Man City versus Fulham. We mentioned there Man City's big win over Burnley last weekend. They needed that, really, not only the win, but the goals that came with it, because they've been struggling for goals and for consistency. They haven't won back-to-back games all season in the Premier League, which is incredible considering we're past the quarter-way point of the season now. Still in the bottom half of the table, Man City, so they need another win here, but you'd fancy them to get it against Fulham. Having said that, Fulham picked up that great win against Leicester on Monday night, didn't they? No one really expected that. Leicester flying high, Fulham really struggling. Both these sides have won 2 of their last 5 Premier League games, so they're coming into it in relatively even form, which you wouldn't expect considering the fixture. How do you see this one going?
Yeah, I fancy City here, I've got to be honest. I think, obviously we've mentioned it, City are getting their players back now, and when they are in full force and have a full squad, or pretty much a full squad, they're still a force, for anyone. And obviously picked up a point, didn't they, in the Champions League against Porto, but last week against Burnley, 5 goals is always impressive. It's obviously a scoreline that's happened a lot, but still to do that, I think this season, especially with their struggles this season, obviously losing at Tottenham was really disappointing. I thought they were really poor in that game, considering they had a lot of the ball, but no real cutting edge. But Fulham, yeah, excellent against Leicester. Scott Parker came out after the game, didn't he, and said, he still expects them to struggle this season. He's not naive to the fact that they're going to be, going to have to struggle during periods of the season and periods of games, but to hold on against Leicester, I think, especially conceding late on, to manage to get over the line and get a win was probably answered a lot of questions, because a lot of people expect Fulham to go down. I certainly still think they will, but they've given themselves, bit of a confidence boost at this stage of the season, which is obviously important ahead of the festive period. But yeah, it's difficult to look past City. Like you say, I do expect them to fly up the table in the coming weeks, and I expect them to be in and around, the top 2-3 over the festive period, because I just think they've got, some decent games. Obviously, they play United next weekend, and that's going to be a huge game, and one they'll be keen to win as well. So yeah, City here, I've gone 3-0 in the end.
Yeah, I've gone exactly the same. I think I could see a comfortable win for City. I think that what that Fulham win over Leicester would have done is, as you say, give them confidence that not only, it would have given them a more optimism heading into this match. They might get something, but they'll still regard anything from this game as a bonus if they do manage to get anything, because, City at the Etihad is still one of the toughest assignments in world football, yet alone in the Premier League alone. But I think that win over Leicester would have given them confidence that they can get points from those sorts of games further in the season. So far, we just looked at probably, it was that home game against West Brom where we thought, this is their best chance to get points. You can't really see where else they'll get points if they don't get points then. And if they obviously won that game, but then to win at Leicester will give them a huge confidence boost so they can pick up points elsewhere as the season goes on. But as you say, it's really tough to see them getting anything from this game. Man City back to winning ways comfortably against Burnley. I can see them similarly comfortably running out victors against Fulham, who have improved after their really poor start to the season. Certainly defensively, they're not shipping quite as many goals as I remember that defeat against Aston Villa, and I don't think I'd ever seen such poor defending in the Premier League. But they have improved since then. But Man City's attack, they couldn't afford to leave Sterling out last week against Burnley, and maybe they might leave him out again considering the form some of the attackers are in. But yeah, I can see Man City winning 3-0 in this one. And you say you expect them to rise up the table. They are in the bottom half, but it's worth noting they're 6 points off top of the table with a game in hand as well. So certainly not out of the title race. And as you say, a few wins in a row and they'll be right back up there again. So yeah, both going for 3-0 wins for Man City in that one. 5:30 kickoff on Saturday is the other Manchester club in action, is West Ham versus Man United. And this is a fascinating contest, really. United, we've said a lot about their away form. It's the best they've ever been on in the league, 8 consecutive league wins. But West Ham in really good form as well. They're fifth in the table, could move to within 1 point of the top of the table with a victory in this match. Both teams going into it with identical form over the last 5 games, and importantly, we've got to say I think it's the first Premier League game with fans allowed back in the stadium, so it's going to be a big occasion, isn't it?
Yeah, huge occasion. I think the fact you mentioned fans being back is obviously it's not a lot, but he's still going to create. We saw it in the Europa League, the Arsenal game, and the one that stands out. And obviously, it's still going to be a huge boost for the players, isn't it? I don't think there's any doubt about that. Obviously, we're in a situation now where there hasn't been fans for so long at this level, but to get them back in any capacity, any that we can at the moment, is fantastic news and adds to the spice of the game. Like you say, 5th in the table, West Ham at the moment. They're really flying high. You always feel like West Ham are a side that they can't afford too many injuries. Obviously, Antonio's been out recently. He's come back in now. And to win their last 3, obviously had to ride their luck against Villa, didn't they? There was a few dodgy moments, and obviously Villa, really should have got a point out of that game. They had a lot of the ball, but United, on the other hand, the PSG game, I thought they were unfortunate. I thought they created a lot of chances. Obviously, Martial really needs to be putting those away. I was astounded that Solskjaer didn't take Fred off at half time, because you just felt like any challenge, it doesn't matter if it's a foul or not, any challenge he was going to get sent off. The referee was itching to send him off. So that was disappointing, but obviously need to go to Leipzig next week and now get a big result there to get through to the next round. But Premier League form, the interesting stat for me, United have fallen behind in each of their last 4 away games and won them all. The first time in Premier League history that's happened. Yeah. So they won't want to be falling behind in this game, because West Ham have shown, Declan Rice has been fantastic, Soucek, Antonio, we know about. Even Bowen and Fornals, they're not standout names, but they work so well in the system. And David Moyes will obviously be keen to keep raising his stock. A lot of people fancy him to go down, not go down, maybe struggle this season again, because it's essentially the same squad. Added obviously a little bit of quality and kept Rice, but United, they need to win. Sitting in 9th at the moment, and it's still 16 points. They're 5 points off the top of the league. The game in hand, so it's incredible. If they could pick up a win here, it'd be huge. But got a draw in the end. I think West Ham deserve a lot of respect. They're in good form. United maybe had a testing game in the Champions League. Rashford looks like he'll be fit, but obviously it'll be interesting team selection. Will Cavani play again? Will he go back to a different formation, or Pogba? A lot of talking points, but draw here.
A draw. I've gone for West Ham winning this one. I went back and forth. I think West Ham, as you say, they're in really good form. They fared pretty well against all the big teams they've played so far this season. And I think the key thing, I think United, if this game came straight after the Southampton game when they were flying high and you know coming back from 2 goals down to win 3-2, full of confidence, full of momentum, perhaps I'd back them to get something out of this game. But I think the defeat to PSG and the manner in which it happened will be a little bit demoralising because, as you say, it leaves their Champions League hopes hanging by a thread. They probably will have one eye on that RB Leipzig game, so I wouldn't be maybe surprised to see maybe a few changes and a bit of a priority on that Leipzig game in the week. But I think the manner in which it happened against PSG, as you say, missed so many chances, should have got something out of that game, at least a draw, which would have put them through. That would have deflated them and robbed them of the momentum they got against Southampton. And with West Ham in such good form, I could just see them picking up a win in this one. It's a difficult one because United's away form is so incredible, and it's bizarre the disparity between that and their home form. You can't really make any sense of it. But they do keep on managing to pick up these away wins, so it's hard to back against them away from home. I just think it can't go on for too much longer, surely, just winning away from home every single game. And I think West Ham, in the form they're in, have probably got enough to get something from this game. I think it might depend on if Antonio is fit and firing. Obviously, he started against Villa but was taken off at half-time and didn't look fully fit whatsoever in that game, so perhaps shouldn't have started. Maybe it came too soon for him. But a week on, maybe he's back to full fitness. So that'll be interesting. But yeah, I've just got a sneaky feeling for West Ham in this one. I've gone 2-1 to West Ham. Saturday evening, we got Chelsea versus Leeds, another really fascinating game. Chelsea in third place in the table, in really good form across all competitions. Giroud obviously scored 4 against Sevilla in midweek in the Champions League, and then last weekend was the goalless draw with Tottenham, the fellow high flyers. Leeds, we mentioned it a few times, pretty inconsistent so far this season, but good win at Everton last time out. How do you see this one going?
Yeah, it's a really interesting one, really, really interesting game. One I'm looking forward to is obviously Bielsa putting his wits against Lampard, and great tactician he is. We'll be keen to get one over on him. Obviously, Chelsea picked out Olivier Giroud, didn't we, when we were talking about after the Tottenham game, the reaction and whether he should come back into the side, and 4 goals against Sevilla. And Sevilla, to be fair, made loads of changes. They played Real Madrid this weekend in the league, and obviously both teams already through. So maybe you need to read a little bit more into the 4-0 than you do, but still to win 4-0, at the Estadio Ramon away from home Champions League is incredible. And Chelsea, in the league there, I think we both of us probably questioned them, didn't we, early this season, whether they're quite where they're going to finish this season, in and around the top, but can they win the title? She's sitting third at the moment, 2 points off the top. And you fancy there's going to be some movement this weekend in the Premier League because it's so tight up there. Obviously, Liverpool have got a tough game, haven't they? Tottenham, North London derby. Could quite easily be top of the league, by the end of the weekend, going into their next game against Everton away from home next. Obviously, they play Champions League as well, but they'll rest loads of players for that. So it's a really interesting game. Yeah, Leeds on the other hand, we've seen them play well, seen them play poorly this season, and they're a lot of fun, aren't they? Good fun to watch. Winning at Everton, picking a point against Arsenal. 2 really good performances in their last 2, and this was one I struggled with. I was. Last week we backed too many draws, didn't we? And I almost went a draw here just because Leeds, I think they're really good value. They create good chances. They play good football, but hard to back against Chelsea at the moment. A tight game, but I've gone Chelsea 2-1.
2-1, yeah. I've gone Chelsea 2-0. I think their defensive record at the moment, Chelsea, is really good. And that's been the key difference between, you mentioned we were questioning whether they had real title credentials at the start of the season. That was because their defence was so leaky. But ever since Mendy came in, they seem to have they've solved that problem. I don't know if it was just him. Obviously, Thiago Silva's help getting settled into the team and his leadership. Ben Chilwell, obviously, on the left as well. Kurt Zouma in good form as well. And Reece James in really good form as well. Their whole defence is in really good form at the moment. And Leeds, well, they've got the ability to score goals. And certainly we've seen in their match against the big teams, you think back to the Liverpool game on the opening day and the Man City game, they've certainly got the ability to cause to cause Chelsea problems. And even in that Arsenal game, they did create a lot of chances and should have scored even if they drew a blank. But while they've got that ability, more recently we haven't really seen them being too clinical in front of goal. They've only scored 3 goals in the last 4, which I think when you couple that with Chelsea's defensive record, just points me towards a Chelsea win. So yeah, I've gone 2-0 in that one to Chelsea. On Sunday, we've got West Brom versus Crystal Palace. West Brom still in the relegation zone, down in 18th place, despite that big win over Sheffield United last weekend. Absolutely huge victory for them. That was their first of the season. Crystal Palace, back-to-back defeats without scoring since that 4-1 win over Leeds. Struggled without Wilfred Zaha as well. We've mentioned their stats have been poor without Zaha in the past, and they've really struggled to even score, yet alone pick up a point without him. How do you see this one going? It's an interesting one, isn't it?
Yeah, so basically the point you made, whether Zaha comes back in, I think he's maybe 50-50 at the moment, whether he'll be able to come back in for this game. They're just so, incredibly reliant on him, aren't they? I think I mentioned a few weeks ago, you're looking at contribution from elsewhere, and it's so important. Benteke, no Premier League goals. Batshuayi, no Premier League goals. Jordan Ayew, 1. To be fair, Ayew was good last season, really good for Palace, but they're just not getting enough contribution, not even particularly goals, contribution, creation from elsewhere. Obviously, Easy's come in from QPR and come up with 1 goal. It's going to take him time. He's only 22 and he's a really good player, but they're just so reliant on him, and you wonder if they did lose Zaha at some point, where they'd be going really. And West Brom, on the other hand, I've been quite critical of them earlier in the season, but I think their last 2 games against United away from home and at home to Sheffield United, I thought they were really good, to be fair, in both of those games. Conor Gallagher, I feel like I keep going on about him, but he just stands out every time I watch West Brom, no matter who they're playing. He was probably one of the best players on the pitch at Old Trafford. Again, one of the best players against Sheffield United, and really, really good players. This is a really tough one, and I've actually gone for goalless draw in this one. I feel like I'm going to get one at some point. I almost went West Brom, and if I had to pick a winner, I would go West Brom. But Palace, on the other hand, they'll obviously be keen to get back some sort of form, because their form early this season was really good, and they're still obviously capable of picking up excellent results. Certainly away from home, they can be a difficult side to beat. So I'm not expecting a classic here, and I've actually gone a goalless draw.
I've gone exactly the same. I think we've both gone for goalless draws recently. I think, again, this one seems, we said last week, one seems to be too obvious a goalless draw, but this one does scream it out, particularly if Palace don't have Zaha available, because, as we mentioned, they really struggle without him. West Brom, the key thing with them, I think their improvement defensively has been huge, and obviously that hasn't necessarily translated to results recently because they've been struggling to score as well, but they were shipping goals for fun. They've still got one of the worst defensive records in the league. I think only Fulham have conceded more, but they've only conceded 5 goals in the last 6 league games, which is a huge improvement for them. So yeah, I can see them keeping another clean sheet if Palace are without their star man again this weekend. So yeah, both gone for goalless draws in that one. I'm sure we will get one of them sooner rather than later, Matt. All right, also at the bottom, Sheffield United in real trouble now, aren't they? 1 point from 10 games is the worst ever Premier League start any team has ever made, on course to beat that Derby County team that only got, I think it was 11 points over the course of the whole season as things stand. So they're in real trouble, in desperate need of points. Can you see them getting anything at home to Leicester?
No, I can't, to be honest. I thought they were quite good against West Brom, to be fair. Sheffield United had loads of chances, but similar story in terms of goals. McBurney, no goals this season. Sharp's got 1. McGoldrick's got 2 in the league. And, Reece Brewster as well. Rhian Brewster, sorry, is the one that obviously, you're looking at. Obviously, you'll know more about him than me, but you always felt, it was a strange one because he was so highly rated at one point. They was talking about him, weren't they, and Mason Greenwood. I mean, do you still think Brewster's going to become, a top striker? Or I think Liverpool got a buyback.
Yeah. Whether he becomes a top striker, certainly would put him some way behind Greenwood's level at the moment. I think he's got those natural finishing abilities to be able to get goals, and as soon as he starts getting them, I think confidence will build. But yeah, there's danger of him getting a bit lost if he can't get a goal soon. And you think of maybe other players to have gone from Liverpool as highly rated youngsters, Jordan Ibe, Dominic Solanke, people like that. You see him maybe going down that path unless he starts scoring soon. But certainly at Liverpool, he showed lots of signs.
Yeah, I think the point is, he's coming for a lot of money, isn't he? He's only 20 years old. It's a big ask, isn't it, to go into a side that obviously when he signed it, they weren't, rock bottom with points that struggling as much as they are. But they're just so. It's a difficult time, isn't it, for Chris Wilder? And it'd be very interesting. You hope that they will back him, but you feel like if they keep losing and keep losing and keep losing, and they find themselves, really starting to get cut adrift towards the bottom, then it's obviously going to be a big decision for the club. But, Leicester, on the other hand, obviously had some big results this season. Last time out against Fulham was obviously far from ideal. That's the game that, you really felt that they wanted to bounce back from the loss to Liverpool, which was also really disappointing. And they've just gone off the boil, probably gone off the boil is the wrong phrase because they are still having a good season, but they've just dropped off a touch, haven't they, this season in terms of, obviously, they're fourth in the league, but 3 points off the top of the league. So again, I mean, you talk about how it could change this season. It wouldn't be overly, if they could be top or second by the end of the weekend. So it's still a really, really good start to the season for them. But yeah, it's a tight game for me. Sheffield United are going to make it difficult. They will, try and get in their faces and make it tough. But yeah, I've just gone 1-0 Leicester here in the end.
Yeah, I've gone exactly the same as well. I think, as you say, Leicester certainly have gone off the boil. 1 draw and 3 defeats from the last 4, having won their previous 6 before that across all competitions. So we sort of saw it happen towards the tail end of last season after lockdown, when they go on these runs and can't seem to pick up a victory, having looked so impressive beforehand. So it can seem to happen for them. Once they get on the run, they're really good and really hard to stop. But once that run stops, as it did against Liverpool, and they played really poorly in that game as well, it seems to be hard for them to get back into it. Obviously, defeating the Europa League against Zoya in midweek was a really disappointing one for them. But as you say, still flying quite high in the Premier League, and with the likes of Vardy up front against the Sheffield United side struggling so much, I'm backing them to get the win. And the thing with Sheffield United as well is this form hasn't just been this season. It was the tail end of last season. We mentioned Leicester tailing off after lockdown. Sheffield United did to an even greater extent, really. And I think it's now 11 defeats in the last 12, stretching back to last season. Only 1 draw in that time, 1 point from the last, 36 available is horrendous form. That is relegation form. And, unless something changes pretty soon, they are going to start to be cut adrift. It's already 6 points, which is certainly not is not unassailable. But when you consider they've only got 1 point from 10 games so far, 6 points to make up against Fulham to safety is a big gap now. So they really need to start getting points on the board. But as we say, this is going to be a tough one for them. We're both backing 1-0 Leicester wins in this one. The big game of the weekend is the North London derby, of course, Tottenham versus Arsenal. Both come into this in very contrasting form, really. Tottenham, top of the table still. They draw with Chelsea last time out. They've been in really good form as far as the Premier League is concerned. Haven't lost since September, the opening day against Everton. They're on the longest unbeaten run in the league. Whereas Arsenal, I think only Sheffield United themselves have been on a longer winless streak in the Premier League, and their Premier League form, even that victory was obviously away to Manchester United, but aside from that, that's their only win in their last 6 Premier League games, I think it is, from memory. And obviously home defeat against Wolves last time out at home. That's now 3 defeats in a row. Not faring much better away from home either. 14th in the table, 13 points from 10 games. You mentioned quite a few times more pressure should be coming on Arteta's shoulders, and I think it is starting to now, because I thought they made a relatively okay start to the season, but right now they're in really poor form. You can't really turn a blind eye to home defeats, heavy home defeat against Aston Villa, that game against Leeds, which they should have lost really, and a defeat to Wolves last time out as well. Poor performances to go with them as well. So there's a lot of problems for Arsenal at the moment, and coming up against this Tottenham team who are in really good form, have starting to smell a bit of a title challenge and starting to believe that might be the case under Mourinho, who's obviously done it all before in the Premier League. He's got an exceptional record against Arsenal as well, which will only boost their confidence heading into this one. Tottenham have beaten Man City recently. They've obviously got that draw away to Chelsea. Harry Kane loves a North London derby if he's fit. I think there's a question mark over him, but I think he's expected to be fit, so you'd expect him to start this game. Obviously, Tottenham didn't get an ideal result in midweek, but they rested a lot of players for that game, so they'll be back to full strength pretty much. So it's looking like a difficult game for Arsenal for me. I toyed with more high scoring with this one. I toyed with a 4-2 Tottenham win, but I think Arsenal just haven't been scoring that many goals to warrant that. So I expect Tottenham to win this quite comfortably. I've gone for 3-1 Spurs in this one.
3-1, yeah. I've just gone 2-1 Tottenham in the end. I think obviously it does look like Harry Kane's going to be fit, doesn't it? And that's obviously huge for Tottenham. If he wasn't there, it takes an awful lot of, not just even their goals. I think we both said it. He's one of the best passers in the Premier League. His assists, his touch. He's a wonderful player. And if he wasn't there, you look at the other striker on the other side. Aubameyang. There was so much talk of him last season. Was he going to stay? Is he going to go? Signs a new deal. Only got 2 Premier League goals this season, and I don't think he's been good at all in the ones I've seen. And there's obviously been a few question marks of whether is he really in it. He's got his massive deal now, and the amount of money he's on, he wouldn't have got it elsewhere. And obviously, listen, I'm not for 1 minute questioning his, professionalism at all, but he's signed a massive deal. He's on big money, and you can still sell this frustrations. As you watch him, if someone gives the ball away or doesn't play him in, his arms waving in the air, and there is a little bit of a disconnect, I think, between him and certain players. Obviously, they've got a lot going for them. Arsenal, Saka's a wonderful player. They've got a lot of good things, but they're just, like you say, I do think Arteta will have to, his position will have to be questioned because their record this season is really, really poor. They're 14th in the league, and this is obviously the last game they want. But saying that, games they've expected to win this season, that they've not actually done that. So maybe it is a good game for them to come into and pick up, obviously, what would be a huge, huge result. But yeah, I'm with you here. I just can't really see Tottenham not winning. There's a nice balance to the side at the moment. Sissoko and Højbjerg in midfield, which has seen the likes of Winks and Dele Alli miss out, and a bit settled going forward. And at the back, I still think there's huge question marks over Tottenham. That's why I do think Arsenal will score in this game. But Mourinho seems to have got his mojo back a little bit, doesn't he? And he, like you say, I think it's the right word. He can sniff a title challenge. And I think they've got a good as chance as Chelsea. I think Liverpool, while Liverpool's injury problems continue, they'll be in it. And City obviously got their own problems. So listen, it really sitting at the top of the table at the moment. And I do expect them to win as well. I've gone 2-1 Tottenham.
2-1 Tottenham for Matt in that one. Okay, mentioned Liverpool there as potential title challengers again. The champions host Wolves in Sunday's final game. Liverpool beat Ajax, obviously, to secure their place in the Champions League and have had a 5-day rest, which Klopp will be happy with ahead of this match. Wolves, we seem to say it every single week. It's difficult to know what to expect from them, isn't it? They pick up good results some week and then disappointing results the next week. Obviously, last time out against Arsenal, really good win, overshadowed by the Jimenez injury, the sickening clash of heads. Obviously, he's got a fractured skull now, so he's going to be out for some time. Our best wishes to him, and we hope he gets well as soon as possible. But he's going to be a big loss for Wolves, obviously, in this game against the Liverpool defence, which could be missing their whole first choice back five. Alisson is out for this one. Robertson picked up a knock in midweek. Did manage to play on with that, so not sure if he's going to be able to be fit for this one. I'm sure he will start if he is, even if he's slightly under 100%. I'm sure he will start because Liverpool need a bit of their first choice front four in front of Kelleher, who performed so well against Ajax. And Liverpool, to be fair, should have got more than that 1-0 win against Ajax. They had so many promising attacks which they failed to make the most of. I think the key thing about this game, again, we said it a few weeks back with the Leicester one, where I thought it was a really difficult game for Liverpool with all their injury problems, and a good team capable of hurting them came to visit Anfield. I think the Anfield factor is the key thing in this one. Otherwise, I'd be backing probably Wolves to get something out of this game if it was at Molineux. But the Anfield factor, I can see Liverpool coming away with a victory in this one. I think they managed to get the job done time and time again at Anfield, so I'm going for 2-1 Liverpool.
I don't think you've actually backed Liverpool to get beat, have you, since we started this podcast?
Have you backed United?
Yeah, I've backed them to get beat, a few games. I'm just thinking there, I don't think you've backed them to get beat in any game. I'm thinking it might come at some point, but no,
we've only lost one game.
Yeah, to be fair.
Villa.
Yeah, you didn't back that one, did you? But no, it's obviously a difficult game for... I've actually got a draw here in the end. I just think Wolves against Arsenal to suffer the early blow of losing Jimenez and the early blow of, seeing a teammate in that, state is obviously very, very difficult. And I thought they were excellent in the second half of that game. Latter stages of the first half and the second half as well. Obviously took the lead again before half time, and they were really good. And I've said a few times, Wolves have confused me this season. I've seen them play really well, seen them play quite poorly, but I do think obviously team selection for this game, will Fabio Silva come in? He obviously replaced Jimenez. Will it be him? Obviously Neto's played really well this season. Daniel Podence has been really good. And I just think they'll have some joy. I think they have some of the ball in this game, got great technicians in midfield. Liverpool's injury problems are just, they're incredible, aren't they? You say whole back five could be missing there. Thiago's still out, isn't he, for a while? And Thiago's a strange one. Like he's still the kick, isn't it, from the Richarlison in the derby?
Yeah, and it seems to be more serious than first thought, because I think Klopp was comparing it to the Van Dijk injury when he initially said it wasn't so serious. But yeah, it could be out until the new year by the sound of things.
I mean, that's a huge blow, isn't it, for Liverpool? Obviously, coming from a Liverpool fan like yourself, you obviously want to see him. It's great for obviously other teams because he's such a fabulous player, but he's a big blow big miss for Liverpool. And yeah, I'm just going to draw here in the end. I think Wolves capable of really hurting them. Open game, I think it'll be entertaining. Liverpool, it's difficult to back them to lose, and they're still going to be strong going forward, and they'll still score goals. I'm certain of it. I don't think Wolves will stop them scoring, but yeah, maybe a little bit more in hope than expectation. But I've actually gone 2-2 here.
I think that's the key thing with Liverpool's attack. They're always capable of winning games, however many injury problems they've got defensively. With that front four, now it is with Jota, obviously, against his old former club, obviously, in this game. With that front four, they're always capable of scoring the goals to win the game. So the defence is the the dodgy part with all the injuries, but they've been defending a little bit deeper. They haven't been taking as many chances. Now they haven't got Van Dijk, and certainly they won't if they haven't got Alisson as well. And I'd actually probably back Wolves to score more if Liverpool, maybe did have their first full choice defence, because they would be taking a few more risks, and Wolves with that pace in behind would get in behind a bit more. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see that one, how the Liverpool fare, because they've done all right, pretty well so far with their injury problems, particularly at home. So yeah, I'm back in the Liverpool win 2-1, and Matt's back in the draw in that one. Monday night's only game is a South Coast derby between Brighton and Southampton. How do you see that one going?
Yeah, this was a difficult one. Obviously, it's the last game, and I was looking. I didn't want to back another draw. My head says draw here, but I have actually gone Southampton in the end, and it was a tough game to pick because Brighton recently have been really good. We spoke about their performances earlier this season, and can they translate that into results? Obviously, picked up a point against Liverpool and beat Villa in their last two, and they were good against Tottenham as well. Southampton, on the other hand, I was a little bit obviously not disappointed being a United fan that they obviously lost last time out. But if I was a Southampton fan watching that game, I'd be a little bit disappointed with their performance after going 2-0 up against United. I think they sat far too deep. They allowed United too much of the ball in that game, and obviously they came away with a defeat, which has set them back a touch. But their form this season, has been so good, isn't it? Sitting sixth in the Premier League, and if you'd have offered that to Ralph Hasenhüttl at the after this stage of the season, he'd have taken it, no doubt. Especially with missing your best player, Danny Ings is still obviously out, and a big miss for them. But I just think Southampton's away performances, the way they set up, they've got loads of pace and power and energy. I think that's the problem, though. They high press, but can do that for the full 90 minutes? Maybe there's an argument for holding off a touch and then making sure you can maintain those energy levels throughout the 90 minutes. But obviously, it's a different game against Brighton than it is against the top sides, because Brighton are obviously not going to be saying that. Brighton play good football. Listen, it was a tough game for me, this one. This was arguably the toughest. I really struggled with this in the end, and I was going to go a draw, but Southampton's away performances, their capabilities and their position in the table just made me lean towards them. I think Brighton have played a lot better. I think they'll stay up this season, and they've got some good players. But just Southampton 2-1.
Yeah, I have gone for the draw in this one. I've gone 1-1. I think Brighton, it just seemed like a 1-1 team at the moment for a lot of teams they face, particularly at home. Obviously, you mentioned the Liverpool one. And while I disagreed with the VAR call to get them that, there's less arguing with the fact that they probably deserved the draw from that game because they missed the chance, missed the penalty. So they're fully worthy of that point from the Liverpool game, and I can see them doing the same against Southampton. I think Danny Ings might be back for this one. Whether we go straight back into the starting lineup remains to be seen, but that will obviously be a huge boost for Southampton to have him back, because he's been in such good form, seems to score pretty much every week he plays. So hopefully for them, he can pick up exactly where he left off. But yeah, interesting one, this one. Southampton have been really good, and I've been really impressed by them this season, but I've also been impressed by Brighton, and I like the way they play. They don't seem to change the way they play against any team. They'll fancy their chance of getting points against any team. Obviously, taking more confidence from that draw against Liverpool, the fact that they played well and probably could have got even more out of that game in the end, will give them huge confidence, particularly heading into this one. So yeah, I'm backing them to get something out of this 1-1. So Matt's going for a Southampton. Was it Southampton when you went for
Southampton win?
Yeah, I'm going for Brighton draw. Okay, all right, brilliant. That's the game week 11 predictions done. Thanks again, Matt. We'll be back again next week for our latest round of predictions. But in the meantime, you can find in-depth previews for all these games and many more over on sportsmole.co.uk. So be sure to check those out. Thanks again for listening, and we hope to see you again soon.